Well, hello, and a warm welcome back to another week on my allotment. And I have to start, as I always do, with the weather. What a wonderful autumn we're having. I think it's due to break tomorrow, but it hasn't rained here in Chepstow for 3 weeks. We've had some drizzle on and off, and there's been a lot of overcast weather. But the key is, for me on my allotment and at work as a self-employed gardener, it has been largely dry, it has been unseasonably warm. So I have thoroughly enjoyed it both at work and here on the allotment. It has had an effect on the allotment, this unusually warm autumn, and I'll show you a little bit more of that later. So yeah, thoroughly enjoying the weather. Something else significant has happened. For those who don't know, Gardener's World, which is the weekly sort of television magazine programme on the BBC, fronted by Monty Don. Back in 2020, when we had the first lockdown, they couldn't make the Gardener's World weekly programme because of the restrictions. So they used old footage from previous years, and they asked members of the public to send in a video of their garden, of their allotment, something relevant to gardening. And it proved so successful that after the pandemic nonsense finished, they carried on with it. So in 2022, when we had that lovely summer and I grew the gourd birdhouses, I sent in a video and I got an email back thanking me, saying that they'll keep it for a year, and if they don't use it, they'll destroy it or delete it. Okay, fair enough. And it was never used. And I thought, well, you know, they must get thousands, they have to be selective. They can't have any Tom, Dick and Harry on Gardener's World. And I obviously didn't make the cut and thought no more of it. And then a few weeks ago I got an email from a researcher on the programme saying, oh, we love your video, sorry we haven't been in touch, do you mind if we use it? And of course I replied, well, of course I don't mind, I sent it to you. And this week it featured on Gardener's World. Now I'm sure there's a very clever technical way for me to extract that video off Gardener's World and put it on my channel, but I don't know what that is. So I just stood in front of my television and filmed it with my camera. So it looks a bit basic, a bit Heath Robinson, but you know, it works. So in a few minutes I'll show you the 2-minute extract of my few seconds of fame. So as is the normal format, once I've finished my brew, we'll have a wander around and see what I've been up to and what's happening on the plot. So you're very welcome. I know at some point these nasturtiums have got to be removed from the bed next to the pond, but just for the moment, you know, it brings a really welcome splash of vivid colour, which I'm absolutely loving. As I sit with my brew during the day and watch the pond, and every now and again you get a little hint of something beneath the surface. It's lovely. And of course the croaking frogs. Well, I can't claim this as my own good sense, but I was watching Mal on the Veg Plot Man channel, and he tidied up his parsnips and chopped all the scruffy leaves off, and I thought, that's a good idea. I haven't really paid much attention to my parsnip tubs, so I copied his example and I did that this week. And I'm afraid it's revealed a really pathetic parsnip crop. I've maybe got 8 or 9, maybe 10 parsnips, and where I cleared the soil with my fingers to see what kind of girth I had on my parsnips, I discovered a number of the tops of the parsnips are rotten. So I'm not expecting a parsnip crop this year. It's really rather sad. I'm going to leave these where they are because I'd love to be able to provide parsnips for Christmas dinner, if no other time. So I'm going to leave them and wait and pick them for that. We're going to our son-in-law and daughters for Christmas, and I'll see what I get nearer the time. But it's a lot tidier. Back in March I sowed maybe half a dozen New Zealand spinach plants. I've said before, I have no luck with spinach. This allotment is very exposed to the sun, and I just think it's just too hot and sunny for spinach. Spinach likes a little bit of cool weather and shade, and I can't provide those here. So this New Zealand spinach works for us, but you can see now it's going over. All I do is I chop off the running stems, and then I sit on my bench and I pluck off the leaves individually, and we use it just like spinach, and it's a wonderful crop. It's very, very unfussy. It's lasted all the way through to halfway through November. I mean, there's still leaves there I could use, but they just get a little bit tougher now. But very happy with that. I can thoroughly recommend New Zealand spinach. Well, I'm sure you can see that that darker colour suggests that this week I've carried on emptying my aero hot bin at home, and I've been bringing the compost up here, and I finished mulching around the asparagus plants. But when I was doing that, I made a slight discovery, and I think it might be related to this warm, unseasonably warm weather. Well, I don't know if you can see that, but I've got growing tips of asparagus. That's not the only one. I've got several on different plants, and you know, I'm not sure if that's usual. I've not grown asparagus before, but that's supposed to crop in April. And I've got spears growing now. Either that's perfectly normal and I just have to chop it off again, but I think it's because we haven't got the cold weather. The plant has not yet gone into dormancy, and I think it's been fooled into thinking it's spring because the temperature's up at about 15-17 degrees. Yeah, fascinating. I think this raspberry might be suffering from the same problem as the asparagus. It's just starting to set fruit. It's obviously not going to come to anything, but it's fascinating to watch. Well, this veggie pod cover was on the veggie pod, but despite that, the cabbage white caterpillars got inside and have devastated my little cabbage crop. So I've taken the lid off to allow the birds in to clear the caterpillars for me. In fact, they haven't quite finished the job. But I made a discovery. One of my cabbages isn't a cabbage. So that's going home tonight. I also managed to clean out these carrot tubs, do a bit of weeding. So they're all looking a lot neater, and all these potato tubs have had some more of that hot bin compost added, so they're all looking good. I've also used some of this wood I managed to obtain to start putting a new border around a couple of the beds, and I dug out, or re-dug out, the trenches in anticipation of the rain that must surely arrive soon. And I got some more cardboard from the garden centre, and I've finished covering that bed there with cardboard. That's ready now. I shall leave that on there till the spring. Well, this is my greatest challenge at this time of the year. You can see that I've top dressed this bed with organic cow muck, but you can see, because it hasn't completely covered the soil, that the couch grass, the nettles, all the normal weeds, the usual suspects are coming up. And so before they gain too much of a foothold, it's the hoe that has to come out. It's got to be the most boring job on the allotment, but possibly the most important. So I shall spare you from filming of that, well, too much of it. But that's my job today, is to go around each and every bed and just run the hoe over and get the weeds gone before they become a major problem. And if this bed sort of shows that clearly, these are my Swedes, a variety called Best of All. And because I've taken my eye off the ball and I just haven't got in amongst it as I should, you can see where it becomes very scruffy and untidy. And I think, I don't know about today, but this week I'm going to have to get in there with the hand fork and just get rid of all those nettles and other weeds. I do like swede. Cheryl usually does it with mashed potato and mixes it in, and it's blimmin' lovely. But it's a pain in the neck to weed round. Right, let's get the hoe moving. That's another sign of the unusually dry weather. In all the years I've been here, I've never seen that buggy collecting balls on the field like that. Normally this time of the year the ground is so waterlogged they have to do it by hand. But that ground is firm enough to drive on. It's remarkable. Of course, there's always lots to do on the allotment, even in the dormant season. But it's not all about what goes on the allotment. And I've been busy at home in the greenhouse, so let's have a look at that. Well, here in the greenhouse, back in the garden, some very tatty looking pelargoniums. And then it's a mixture of onions and garlic on this side. Onion sets, I'm trying them again, because the seeds weren't as successful this year as they were last year. And I thought I was through with sets, but I'm going to give it another go. A few butternuts stored in here because I've run out of space elsewhere in the garage, etc. More garlic, and then this is my sown, excuse me, broad beans, aqua dolce, and there's a sign of the first one germinating. So a modest start. Well, now he's really pushing his luck. That mower is incredibly heavy. That's a whole different ball game. Ah, see what I did there? Yeah, good luck to him. I did, when Les was the owner, I did see Les get it bogged in at the top of the field. So let's hope this chap has more luck. Well, as promised, let's have a look at my little moment of fame on Gardener's World this week.
A slow job, so it's a good time to go and visit one of your gardens, and this was sent to us by Martin Jordan from his allotment in Chepstow in Monmouthshire.
Well, hello Gardener's World, my name's Martin and this is my allotment, and the reason I brought you to my allotment is to show you this exotic plant. It is called gourd birdhouse. It's quite a phenomenon on the other side of the pond, but I've never heard of it here. I've got an archway down the bottom of the plot. Every year we grow something on the arch that amuses us. Last year it was tromboncini squash. This year it's gourd birdhouse. In America, once the fruit have grown, they dry them out, scoop out the inside and create, as the name suggests, birdhouses from them. And I thought it would be fun to try and do that here on my allotment. Well, it's late July and it has really grown prolifically. So I've snipped that off. What that then does is promote the lateral growth, and it's these lateral leaders that will hold and produce the gourds that I'm after, hopefully. It's now late August and it won't be long before I'm in a position to start the process of drying them out, and I absolutely love them. I do have to be careful when I'm walking through the arch. I'm not paying attention. A couple of times I've walked into them and there's only one winner when that happened. It's nearly a year since I've planted the gourds. They've dried, I've drilled a hole for the birds and I've attached a string. Well, there's the finished product, rubbed down, varnished and ready for a bird to take up residence. They're a long-term project, but I thoroughly recommend them. Thanks for joining me on my allotment. Bye-bye, Gardener's World.
Whether you use them as a bird nesting box or just grow them for their beauty, I think those gourds look really lovely as they grow. Now, as a year...
The ancient city of Alexandria was built so that the sun shone down the main street on Alexander the Great's birthday. People who die of old age are more likely to die at 11 o'clock in the morning than at any other time. 3 presidents died on the 4th of July, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson in 1826, and James Monroe 5 years later. John Adams, the 2nd President of the USA, took up smoking at the age of 8. John Tyler, 10th President of the USA, was born in 1790, but still has 2 of his grandsons alive today. I think they're about due to die at 11 a.m. When George W. Bush, 43rd President of the USA, arrived at the White House, he found the Clinton administration had removed the W keys from all the computers. This is cracking. President Clinton of the USA is an anagram of "to copulate, he finds interns." How ironic. In 1999, the president of Niger was Major Wank. How unfortunate. Oh, you've got to love life, haven't you? In 1939, 835 sheep were killed by a single lightning strike in Utah. The best way to avoid being hit by lightning is to crouch down away from any trees with your bottom sticking up in the air. You might not get struck by lightning, but you wouldn't half look stupid. Mind you, you'd look more stupid if you were struck by lightning, I guess. Blowing air up an armadillo's bottom, never a good idea, causes it to leap 3 feet in the air. I'm with the armadillo. Who found that out? How'd you find that out? What were you up to? The Victorians kept hedgehogs in their kitchens to control cockroaches. Rats urinate on food to mark it as edible. Monkeys urinate on themselves to attract a mate. An ostrich can kill a lion with a single blow. Being attacked by an ostrich left Johnny Cash with an addiction to painkillers. Well, I've never heard that about Johnny Cash. In 1850, cannabis was used in the USA to treat tetanus, typhus, cholera, rabies, dysentery, alcoholism, anthrax, leprosy, snake bites, tonsillitis, and insanity. A Macedonian soldier from 300 BC was more likely to survive treatment for a wound than a British soldier at Sebastopol in 1854. In so many things we go backwards. Patients admitted to hospital at the weekend are 40% more likely to die than those admitted during the working week. A human being can survive for 9 seconds at 1000 degrees centigrade without suffering lasting damage. Since 1940, 157 people have fallen out of aeroplanes without a parachute and survived. And I'll finish on this. Since 1990, more people have been killed by sandcastles than by sharks. Isn't it strange how our perception of fear is twisted against reality? No one has ever walked onto a beach and gone, ah, there's a sandcastle. But if you saw a shark in the water, you wouldn't go near it, would you? Quite interesting. Well, it's taken me most of the morning, but that's most of the beds hoed, weeded and raked. So I'm fairly happy with that. But I have two jobs now that I've identified for the week ahead. The first I've mentioned, and that is to hand weed around these Swedes. And the second is that monstrosity that I call a flower bed. So yeah, these Verbena bonariensis are lovely, and I'm going to keep them, but everything else here is self-sown. The nasturtiums and all the wildflower mix, I did put some wildflower mix in, but it's, you know, this is a mess. It's not controlled beauty, it's just a mess. So this has got to be cleared, because along here is a row of daffodil bulbs, and they put on a really good show in the spring. But I'm concerned that with all this growth, they're not going to come up, you know, find the light. And if they do, I'll tread on them or something. So I'm going to prioritise this strip along here. Then I'm going to clear the Swedes, and then I'll come back over the next few days and maybe a couple of weeks and clear this lot and dig out all the verbena and pot it up. Well, this is fairly common of my allotment experience. I think carefully about something, I formulate a plan, I start to carry out that plan and very quickly realise the plan was rubbish. That is awful in there, so much couch grass. I've tried to cut out a couple of the verbenas and they just snap off and the roots are rotten. So the beauty of Verbena bonariensis is it self-seeds incredibly quickly, and I have quite a number of them already in pots. So everything in this bed is going. I'm just going to pull it out and then I'm going to dig the whole bed over. The daffodil bulbs are coming out, I'll put them somewhere else. This bed really does need some heavy attention, and it's no good tickling it around the edges and trying to save things. It's all got to come out, because I'm not saving verbena that's got couch grass in the pot, because wherever we go I'm certain we'll have couch grass, but I'm not taking it with me. So a lot of work to do. This is an ongoing project. Well, I haven't seen it for a while, but those Swedes are not a Clubroot resistant variety, and I have discovered Clubroot on a number of them. Not all of them, but that's very distinctively Clubroot. So, you know, it's not a surprise they're not Clubroot resistant. I've got Clubroot and they're suffering from it, so I shall dispose of them in the compost heap and hope that that doesn't transfer it to more of the site. But it's on the site anyway, so it's not really doing any harm. Still, there's plenty of others to pick. Well, it's not perfect, as I always say, but there's a lot of stinging nettles in there, so it was good to get those roots out. And I think I've probably lost about half of the Swedes. It was obvious which ones had the Clubroot. They were very, very small and slimy. So what's left I think is okay. I've given each one a bit of a tug and it hasn't come up, so that's usually a good test of Clubroot. Anyway, it's a lot tidier. Well, today has been all about the usual story. I've had a wonderful day on the plot. The sun came out, it was very warm. I have to say it's getting very windy and chilly now. I think there's a storm brewing. The weather has been fantastic, and you know, if it breaks now, well then so be it. It is November after all. And nobody else on the site, but that's pretty much normal. There's three things I'd like to say. The first one is thank you to all those who subscribe, thank you to all those who watch the videos, and a special thank you to all those who leave the humorous, the interesting, the informative comments I appreciate each and every one of you, and I don't say that often enough. The second thing I'd like to say is a public congratulations to my Uncle Fred. My Uncle Fred was 100 years old last Tuesday, and last night, being Saturday, he had a party. Now, they live in Kent, which is where I come from. Well, I wasn't about to miss his 100th birthday party, so Cheryl and I drove down yesterday morning. It's not the best of journeys around the M25, but it wasn't too bad. Spent the day in the Medway towns where I come from, seeing how much it's changed in the the years since I've been there. And then we had a fantastic time with Uncle Fred and his family, my cousins. It was a wonderful party, and we had a real good catch up. It was lovely. And it's a hell of an achievement. I don't think I've ever met anyone that's 100 years old, so it's quite an achievement. Anyway, so congratulations to Fred. And then the last thing I'd like to say is how interesting it is that Cheryl pops up this allotment only a handful of times through the year. And my allotment has featured in a double-page spread in Kitchen Garden magazine when I won the Passionate Plotter competition. My allotment featured very briefly on Sky News one day. A cameraman walked onto my plot and said, "I've got to do some footage for Sky News about the hot weather. Would you mind if I did some filming on your plot?" By sheer fluke, Cheryl was up here. So she got on Sky News, and of course you'll have seen the clip earlier. She got on Gardener's World. She comes up here, I don't know, a couple of hours a year, and she featured in all of them. Timing's everything in life, isn't it? Anyway, I've had a great day. Thank you for joining me. Thanks if you've made it this far. I should be around next weekend, I think. Until then, look after yourselves, take care, and bye for now.